What if some of the things you call your personality, like being the responsible one, being the strong one, being the one that never lets anyone down, aren't really your personality at all? Maybe these are ways you have learned to feel safe and feel protected. The problem is that these come at a cost. That's what we're talking about today on Wellness by Design. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer, and I know firsthand what happens with this, with these, what we think are our personality traits. Because in 2016, chronic pain took over my body, and I really thought it was a problem to fix. And really, it was really about learning that I didn't have to do all these things. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about what it costs to live in protection because there is a hidden cost to these things over time. And that's what I learned at age 50. So, if you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy that you found this channel, and my goal is to support you in seeing pain in a new light and seeing your nervous system as your ally to help you and your body release pain. And if you're a longtime listener, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for helping Wellness by Design become a top 3% podcast in the alternative health space, which is really, really exciting to me. Now, if you haven't already got your free chapter of my book, you can do that. My book is called Pain Free on Purpose. Use your mind to heal your body and get your life back. And you can get a free chapter by going to thewellnessengineer.com/free chapter. And we've got the link below. Okay, let's dive into the episode. So first, let's talk about why protection was never the problem. So I mentioned that these, what we think of as personality traits, are a form of protection. It's how we stayed safe in the world. It doesn't mean, though, that these were wrong. They're actually a very intelligent response. We didn't even probably know we were doing it. Most of these things happen before the age of 7. But we learn it. We learn it, and we learn that we feel safer like that. So it's a very intelligent way to feel safe and to survive. So I did talk a little bit about this in a previous episode. I talked about pain as protection and why pain forms as a protective mechanism. So you might want to tune into that episode as well. We'll link that one. But I want to follow up from that because in that one, I didn't talk so much about the cost, but I want to talk about the cost in this one. But first of all, just want to reiterate that there's nothing wrong with being responsible, being strong, and being the one that never lets anyone down. It really helped us a lot. It's just that when we keep it going, eventually it's just too much. Our nervous system can get stuck because it never gets the message that we're safe, because we're always trying to be strong, always trying to maintain that what we has been our intelligent response to stay safe. But, when we do this long term, it does have a cost. All right, because it doesn't get switched off. All right, I got my notes here. So the next thing I want to talk about is the problem with it, because it's not all these what we think of as our personality traits, these behaviors of protection. The problem is that they, instead of being a response in a situation, which might make a lot of sense, they actually become like on all the time. They never get turned off. And that is where the problem is. When we can never turn them off, then we're constantly in that vigil state. Our nervous system is constantly on alert. So how would you know? Well, you may look at what you think of as personality traits. I am the responsible one. I am the strong one. I am the one that never lets anyone down. There's other ways as well you can tell that you are in that hypervigilant state, that stress response of the nervous system, and it's probably like you're your what is it, opera, how do they say it in Latin? Your mode of operation. Anyway, can't remember the Latin term, but it's the way you would get just be all the time without even knowing it. So here's some other things that you may notice. I made a little list here. So scanning a room. So you might come in and you're scanning like the room to like where's the exit, or like just trying to be safe in a room. Maybe you always need to sit in the back of the room so that you can see everything. Maybe you always need to sit so that you can see an exit. I've heard some of my clients say that before. And maybe you might even be always scanning people's faces. A very normal human reaction, right? Do they like me? Do they like what I just said? But you're not even consciously doing this. But maybe you can look back and or even with new awareness start to notice. You might sometimes say yes before you've even thought about, do I think yes? Is my answer really yes to that question? You just sort of agree with people and go ahead with it. I know I did this all the time. You could also, I used to do this, rehearse conversations that haven't even happened. So maybe you might go back over a challenging situation with another person and sort of go over the things that you wish you'd said. I wish I'd said that. Or maybe you start thinking about future conversations and how you would say everything. So this like either living in the past and or rehearsing future conversations is another sign that, you're in a hypervigilant state. Another one is, yeah, being fine, always fine, like not even knowing how you are, that maybe sometimes you aren't fine, or you're just always just being in the middle, never sort of really feeling a whole lot of joy or awe, or those moments are rare. So notice what do you usually just say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and don't even notice that you're not fine sometimes. And then maybe you're bracing. I can feel myself bracing even now a little bit as I'm talking. I tend to brace in my solar plexus, but sometimes you might brace in your shoulders, or even before doing a movement, you might be bracing, or maybe holding your breath. Sometimes I notice myself holding my breath when I'm doing, maybe when I'm cleaning or something, and I have to remind myself, breathe. You don't have to hold your breath. Breath holding is a message to our nervous system that, it's not safe enough to breathe right now. So just being aware of these things, and they're just signs that, oh yeah, okay, maybe my nervous system is actually most of the time in this stress response. And it's not that there's a problem with it. It's just that, well, it was an intelligent response because at somewhere along the way, we got the message that we needed to be safe. You might notice also that you startle really easily. That's something I noticed in myself, like, oh, always like a little bit jumpy. You might notice that your leg is always twitching, or some part of you is twitching. All of this is just signs that your brain and nervous system are just on alert. That's all. And actually, this is a good thing to have this awareness of your nervous system being on alert, because that is actually the key to the solution that helps you shift out of that protection mode so that your body can begin to get the message that things are safe, and your nervous system can relearn safety, and then it starts to let go of pain. So pain is just a pattern. It's just a pattern, that's all. Okay, so basically, none of us decide that we're going to live in protection. We just never got the signal that it was okay, that we were safe. And sometimes we think other people need to do that for us now. Maybe having enough money, or having a partner, or having, lots of invitations with friends. We think that would make us feel safe. But the truth is, safety has to come from you. As long as our safety comes from an outside source, we can never truly feel safe, because outside sources are not within our control. Just had this conversation in my Living Pain Free coaching last week, and it was really interesting to talk about that. That as long as your safety is dependent on outside, you can never truly feel safe. Safety has to come from within. And so we want to teach our brain and nervous system to feel safe again. I talked about how there's a cost to staying in that protection mode, being the responsible one, the strong one, the one that never lets anyone down, your nervous system being in that vigilant response. There is a cost to it. You don't see the bill, but there is a cost. So the big one, well, pain, of course, is one cost, but you may also notice lack of energy. It takes a lot of energy for our nervous system to stay in that state because it's constantly on alert for you. It's constantly trying to protect you. And that uses energy. It's too bad we don't have like an energy meter so we can see where our energy is going all the time, but it does cost a lot of energy. And so I often see a lot with people that have chronic pain are also lacking in energy because it just takes a lot of energy to be vigilant. Also, costs you your freedom. We can't feel free if we're constantly in protection mode. And so you may feel constricted. You may feel like you don't your all of your attention is going to other people. You may feel like you're not free to do what you want to do, and then you may have resentment for that, and then that costs you as well. It might cost you connection with other people because you maybe don't feel safe around a lot of other people. And maybe your world gets small and you start staying home more because that's a place where you can feel safe. It's always in our relationships with other people that challenge us and help us grow. And so if you are constantly trying to protect yourself, you don't feel like you want challenges, right? It costs you your creativity. As a human, we are meant to be creative and we are meant to, um, express ourselves in the world. But it doesn't feel safe to be creative and to be expressive if we are constantly trying to protect ourselves. And I do believe that this is, it comes from our soul, this need to be and desire to be creative and to express ourselves, to learn, to expand our knowledge or expand our abilities. But boy, you don't feel like doing that if you're in protection mode. You probably don't feel like it if you're in pain either, because you're probably focusing a lot on trying to get out of pain or what do I need to do or I got to do all these things. I've done lots of episodes on that where I talk about stop trying so hard to get out of pain. So you can watch one of the other episodes for that. But, and then the learning things and self knowledge. It's hard to learn about yourself when you keep making your world smaller and smaller. And like I said, I do believe that we are here to learn, grow, and expand. And I do believe as well that if you are in protection mode, it's blocking that full essence of you from coming through. So all these near-death experiences that have all been documented talk about when people leave their physical body, they experience pure love, unconditional love. And I believe that's what we're meant to feel. But if we are in protection mode, that can't come through. That full essence of you can't come through. And so you're living small. You're not living that full expression of you. So all of this protection, we think of it as our personality. So I want to come back to it because I thought it was my personality as well. I thought I was a perfectionist and people pleaser, and I thought I was responsible, and I kind of wore that with a little bit of pride. I was strong. I didn't like to ask for help. I never wanted to let anyone down. So I thought these are admirable qualities. And of course, they served me well. And if you're looking back at your life, you're probably thinking, yeah, like they did serve me well. But it does come at a cost. And that's what we're talking about, the cost of it. But I just want you to understand and try to separate these out, because you may think it's your personality, but it's not your personality. These are behavioral adaptations. Dr. Gabor Mate, who wrote When the Body Says No, he called them behavioral adaptations we create to feel safe. So if you can separate these out as, these are not actually who I am. They were just adaptations I made. They were intelligent adaptations. Gosh, I didn't even have to think about it, but I intelligently made these adaptations to feel safe and to, feel good in this world. And that is not truly who you are. They were just adaptations, and they can be changed. They really can. All right. So I'd love to uh, just give you some little reframes that I've got written here. So some reframes. You might sometimes say, I'm just a perfectionist. So instead of that, maybe you just could say that you learn that being flawless, or trying to be flawless, because flawlessness is unattainable, trying to be flawless kept you from being criticized. That's a new reframe, isn't it? And what about, instead of I am the strong one, maybe you felt like this in your family. I work with a lot of people who say, oh yeah, I was like the oldest child, or the oldest sister, or the only daughter, things like that. And it could be for men as well. You had to be the strong one. Maybe even one of your parents was not strong and you had to be strong for them. I hear this a lot. So instead of I am the strong one, what about nobody ever came when you weren't strong? Or I felt like people wouldn't love me if I wasn't strong. Or I would let people down if I wasn't strong. So maybe you also say, I'm a people person. So this reading the room, scanning and all that, you might say, I'm just a people person. What about you learn to read the room before it read you? You learn to read the room before it read you. And then what about if you call yourself a worrier? I know people like this. I used to worry. For me, my big worry was always money. I was always worried about money. I don't know why, but that was just my normal state. Probably learned it way back when. I know I did learn it way back when. So instead of I'm just a worrier, instead of just saying that and accepting that's just who I am, I'm just a worrier. What about if you recognize your body learned that anticipating danger helped prevent it? I know it's kind of a strange thing, but that is what our brain, nervous system, body learned. Okay, so I want you to know that these traits don't have to go. It's not that you have to let go of who you are. Maybe you like being who you are. I just want you to create awareness around it, and that these were not necessarily who you are. They were just a form of protecting you, how you felt safe. Okay. So you might even, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, you don't have to let it all go. Like, I'm going to stop worrying. If you are a worrier, that might be hard, but we're going to talk about baby steps here. Okay. So just want you to remember, you are not that armor, that protection that you put around you, that armor. You are not that. It's just something you wore. It's just something you wore. And if you might feel that taking it off just makes you feel very vulnerable. And that's understandable. Okay. So again, small steps. With the first step is awareness. And then you can decide what to do with it. Okay, so why this matters for pain. So coming back to, and I have kind of alluded to this as we've been going through this, that pain is a form of protection. It's one way that our brain protects us, and it is intelligent, because pain Pain is protection. That is what it is. And so when we are stuck in this protection mode, the nervous system, when we think of these things as our personality, and we're constantly there, always responsible, always strong, never letting anyone down, always worrying, those types of things, then we just stay anchored in pain. So if you've got chronic pain, or maybe it's some other chronic conditions, because really they're all just signs that the nervous system doesn't feel safe. The body's not in harmony. It's not in homeostasis. We're just realizing that the cost of this, I talked about, the other costs earlier, but pain, if you're here, it's probably because you've got pain, and it's keeping you in pain. So there is a cost to it. They're not two separate topics. Being that responsible one, having those personality traits of protection, or what we think are personality traits, but they're not. They're actually just modes of protection. Those are not separate from the pain that you're experiencing. So if you are only focused on pain as having a physical cause, and never addressing these things, if you're noticing, yes, I do have these things, then you will stay in pain. And no, that's not what you want. So what we want to do is understand, okay, these go together. I can change. Change is always possible. I can change. Even little baby steps are ways to change. So safety is just a condition that needs healing. That's all. It's just a condition that needs healing. And so when we teach our nervous system how to unlearn that, or relearn safety again, then our body can begin to let go of pain. Okay, I wanted to give you a little reflective experience, as I talked about earlier. So in this reflective experience, I want to just invite you. So if you are driving right now, just pause this and come back to this later. Or if you're walking and you can't do this, whatever, come back to this at a time when you are able to just sit down and close your eyes. So settle down, close your eyes, and maybe you want to inhale and then exhale with a sigh, let it right out. And then bring to mind one word you would use to describe yourself in one of those personality traits of protection, those behaviors of protection. They're not personality traits. What you thought of as a personality trait. Maybe it's being responsible, being strong, never letting anyone down. Any of those. The reliable one, the strong one, the careful one, the one who copes. And then ask yourself, did I choose this, or did I learn this? And you're just asking yourself and letting anything that bubbles up, just let it arise. There's no right or wrong answers. And if I learned it, what was it protecting me from? If I learned it, what was it protecting me from? So nothing needs to change today. All we're doing is noticing, just noticing. You might want to journal about this afterwards, but we can just close with, thank you for keeping me safe. I'm just beginning to look at what it costs. You're just beginning to look at what it costs. All right. When you're ready, you can open your eyes again. You might want to come back to these questions other times. Maybe if nothing came up for you this time, maybe you can come back to it again. And let's just recap here to remember that These, what we thought were personality traits, were actually intelligent ways that our brain and nervous system were protecting us. We may not have chose it. We probably just decided to use it. We learned it to protect us. And that's okay. It was intelligent. There's nothing wrong with it. But what we learn can also be unlearned. So all we're doing today is seeing that there was a cost. You don't have to drop any of the armor right now. We just want to see that there has been a cost to these behavioral adaptations. All right, I always like to end with what's one thing you can do today that's going to shift your brain and nervous system, your body, into a healing state. So today, I'm going to suggest that you try to catch one automatic response today. So the first thing is awareness, of course. And then can you catch one automatic response? Just have a little pause there and see if you can catch an automatic response. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Wellness by Design, but I would love to hear what you thought of this. How many of those, what we thought of as personality traits, have you noticed in yourself? And were you able to catch an automatic response? All right. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already subscribed, then go ahead and do that. And I really look forward to your responses. I'll see you in the next episode of Wellness by Design.